We do have a special guest today. So Neil Sawyer, HP Channel Director, will be giving an insight into the supply chain. And like all things, we've had to think on our feet a little because Neil does have to shoot at 11:20. So Neil's going to take the first section, which is what you can see on your screen. And then after that, what we're going to do is talk around some of the free licenses and services that have been offered from our vendors, from a mix of our business solutions team, and give you an insight into what some of the tools that you could be using through this time. So without further ado, Neil, I'm going to pass over to you if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. I hope you're all safe and family and friends are doing okay in this unprecedented time. I thought I would quickly just cut to the chase that clearly, we are in a period, I guess, as an IT industry, but actually just, economically, whether it be domestically, globally, where we're in uncharted waters. And, much the same as we see a lot of frantic purchases because people are worried, concerned about supply of food and other supplies, medical supplies. There is also equally a very significant, unprecedented demand for computing equipment. And there is three reasons for this, possibly more, but three reasons that I have experienced in the last couple of weeks. The first is obviously many private sector businesses that for the first time have had to seriously think about mobilizing 100% of their workforce to work from home. And I think that, of course, a lot of us in the industry didn't see that coming. And when I talk about the industry, I talk about everyone that works in, IT in some capacity. The second area is, of course, making sure that the NHS and other critical public services are seen to have priority over IT equipment, particularly when it comes to mobilizing general practitioners. Of course, the field hospital strategy that we're seeing, with the first instance being NHS Nightingale. There'll be others announced next week. And the final area is, of course, the very important topic of making sure that children can remain in a process of education through distance learning. So there's a lot going on. I think there'll be also a social demand through the Department of Work and Pensions with Social Security coming through, which will add to the pressures that is on the supply chain for all IT manufacturers, including HP. But the bit that I was very keen to get across is that we, Beckler and HP, have worked together for many, many years, the best part of 30 years together. We understand what it is about making sure that, we support you and your needs. There is no more important or less important customer, actually, because I've been dealing with the Department of Health and Social Care this week, and I asked for clarity on how we should be prioritizing IT equipment into the NHS. And of course, one of the big areas is that when you prioritize one area, you sacrifice another. And the point that I wanted to get across today was that, yes, the NHS is a priority, but we treat that separately, and we have a process for handling all of the demands that is being placed on, a company like HP for those matters. But equally, we care very much about, other public services and private sector companies, because we have to keep the economy going as well. And that involves making sure that people are empowered and are enabled to work. So, it's a critical area for us. It's a fine balance. And I can talk about on the next slide a little bit about what I'll go through in the next 10 minutes. So just to give you an update on what we call the IT channel, I'm sure most of you are familiar with that, but typically a manufacturer sells to wholesalers that then in turn Beckler work with, and we work with Beckler directly as well to supply. The supply chain, of course, the vast majority of what we do as an industry sees production in China and Asia overall. We've got some production capabilities in the Czech Republic for configure to order product, but most of what we do is China produced. You will have seen on the news that clearly China are over the worst of their issues as a country, which from a supply chain point of view at least is good, because actually when I look at the production levels for HP, and this will apply to other manufacturers, but for HP, the performance of our assembly and production is at an optimal level, which means that actually the factories that we're working with are back to work and producing and have access to components. The big challenge, of course, now is making sure that we point what is produced, that inventory, into the markets where there is high demand, and we're doing that for the UK and Irish markets today, as well as other countries where we're seeing high demand. So we don't particularly have a problem with availability of stock generally, but I think my major point to anybody is if you need something tomorrow, we need to work together with yourselves and Better to make sure that we give you the options that are available to you. There is plenty of stock. We just need to make sure that we point that the right stock towards yourselves and the markets that require it. So you have our reassurance of that in particular. As I said, demand is unprecedented. It's very challenging to of course maintain continual supply of that, but we are doing absolutely everything that we can do, and I will promise you one thing: there is always a solution to a problem, and HP and Beckler will work very much together on that. I just move over to the next slide. Just a few things to think about around collaboration. This is some of the stuff that HP are doing. There's a few pictures that kind of expresses what's going on. Of course, there's a lot of work that people are doing together as family and friends. Every Friday, HP runs with their families and friends, or those they're living with, a kind of pub quiz, just to build a bit of a community amongst our people. We're doing a lot in terms of partner training, making sure that Beckler are kept up to speed with everything that we're doing together, developing ideas and understanding around how to solve technology problems, introducing new concepts that may be of interest to you as valued customers to Beckler and HP. And I think doing the general stuff like helping out in the community. I think there's a few of our team that have done fancy dress days. They don't normally work from home dressed like that you can see in the pictures. But mental health is very important, and keeping people motivated in an IT world is important too. But we're also very sympathetic to the issue for everyone. It probably is worthwhile just pointing out what's happening in the retail space, which kind of shows you the empty shelves. Last week, everything was in very good order. You could go into a PC world, into any retailer, John Lewis, etc., and purchase a laptop, a monitor, or a printer. And really, in the week running up to those stores closing, there has been an unprecedented demand in the retail space. So, the big thing that I think is a learning for us as an economy is making sure that we can provision online as Beckler do in terms of their e-catalog, but also make sure that in the future we ready ourselves for a lot more when it comes to digital collaboration. And the great thing that will come out of all of this is that there should be 65 million people in the UK that are familiar with video conferencing and Zoom and Teams and others that possibly didn't exist before. And for us, this is a few points that I thought that that Beckler and HP should get across to you as customers. Everyone has personal commitment between work and family and friends. I alternate, between a day off a week and half a day off now because I've got 3 children under 6 years old. And just one parent can't do that alone. So we're definitely very flexible and tolerant as a business and as an industry to all of those personal commitments. I think for you, where you're trying to source inventory, then work with Beckler, who will in turn work with the distributors, the wholesalers that carry most inventory for the IT market. And also Beckler have a partner business manager at HP that is there 100% to solve your problems. So, if you've got an issue, then we've got a very robust team of people that can look to solve that collectively with Beckler. We may not be able to supply everything, but we can always do something. I made the point yesterday that there's a lot of demand for laptops because that's the easiest way to create a work from home scenario. Now, if I'm going to be sat at exactly the same for the next 2, 3, possibly 4 months, then if you can't source the right specification that is required on a laptop, you can always source that and aim to source that as a desktop. And of course, desktop PCs are extremely small, if not the same volume weight as a laptop these days. I think the other piece that we're trying to do to keep people together and connected is that HP and Beckler stand a lot for doing stuff in the community. If there are things that we can help with or you can get involved in directly, I know that has been very rewarding for employees within Beckler and HP. And I think the final bit from me is just about being positive. We can only but be positive because, of course, everyone is in the same challenging situation. But embrace new ways of working with your customers. We'll embrace new ways of working with you, and of course we're always there to support you where we can. This is my final slide. Is just I received this from my children's school actually, and I just thought as a bit of value add before I draw to a close is this of advice for anybody that has children that I received, and so I thought I'd just share it out because it a lot of the time children play a big part in our happiness at work, particularly when you're working from home. And I just thought that if you were interested in and you were in the same position or similar position to I am, then perhaps this might be of value. But I guess in closing, my point is that we are there very much to support you. As I said, Beckler and HP work together and have done for 3 decades. We know each other very well, and we will find solutions to those problems that you have, and we're very committed to that. So that's me. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I hope you're safe and remain safe and healthy, and any questions you have, then we'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Neil. I really appreciate that, and I really like the slide on the children's safety as well. We'll make sure we send that around to everyone. Just before Neil goes, is there any questions for Neil before we move on to the second part? feel free to unmute or put it in the chat function.
Just from my side, Ajay, says James Knapp speaking. So I just wanted to thank Neil because he's extremely busy, going between conference calls with Matt Hancock and the leaders of this country in terms of making sure that equipment gets prioritised with the NHS, etc. So very busy chap, and really appreciate him coming on to share that with us today. So yeah, any questions from anyone? Don't be shy. No.
We will take back. Yeah, absolutely. We'll take the silence as good silence. Neil, thank you very much for joining. We really appreciate that. And if there are any other questions that come off the back of this, as Neil mentioned, pass it through to Beckler, and we'll make sure that they get answered by Neil or a member of his team. So thank you, Neil. Appreciate that.
Cheers.
Right, I am just going to swap presentations here. So if you don't mind, just give me 1 second. And you should be able to see my screen now. For anyone who can't, just let me know. So the next section of this is all about what our vendors are doing right now for our customers. And there's a lot of licenses, services that are being offered free of charge here. So it's important we took a few of these to give you an insight into what is being provided, and we can give you sort of our opinion of how that would work and some of the things to consider. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Justin Edhouse, who's going to talk through some of those products. Justin, over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Ajay. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a recap on the last webinar, which some of you were on, some of you weren't. I did actually talk about some of the problems that we experienced as an organization, and where things creaked a little bit. Basically, we were in a good position, but undoubtedly when you switch it around with 100% remote workers, there were challenges. So that was what I talked about in the last session. If people want to hear my troubles, then there is actually a recording of that. It's if nothing, it's just one of those things. I think to make people realise that we're all experiencing problems. It is a challenging time, and there's some sage advice in there which hopefully can help you deal with some of the challenges you face. But what I thought was really interesting about this was actually it highlighted, whilst those are very specific to me at the time, actually what it highlighted was that we have issues with all parts of the IT infrastructure: connectivity, collaboration, productivity, security, infrastructure, services. All those things are related to the challenges of switching it around to 100% remote workers. So what I'm going to take you through now is all the different answers that we think our vendors are coming up with that we think are worth noting. They're not for everyone, and I'll talk a little bit more towards the end about how to approach these offers, because at the end of the day, just because they're free, it doesn't mean it's a good idea. You really have to take a step back and think about these things. So let's take a look at the offers. Let's see what's out there. We'll start with VMware's. VMware is there's a number of things that we can draw from this, but essentially we're talking Horizon. Horizon's a virtual desktop infrastructure product. So it allows you to deliver your Windows desktops safely and securely from the data center to your users. It's a way of ensuring security. It's a way of ensuring performance. It gives flexibility, and this can be delivered from your own data center, inside of AWS, in VMware Cloud, on Azure. So again, we're seeing 90 days of trial available on those products. So that's really, really good. Taking it up a notch is, of course, Workspace ONE, which encompasses Horizon, but has a whole lot of other features for policy-based control and automation, workflows. It really is the total package as far as delivering a virtual infrastructure to users. So it's way beyond what Horizon does in isolation. So they really are worth a look. But again, yeah, it does take time to set these things up or get on VMware Cloud and get it integrated with your own infrastructure. So yeah, caution, make sure you understand what you're getting into, and we can help you with that. So you can pick up the phone and talk to your account manager. They can put you in touch with our specialists, and we can talk about how you get from where you are right now to a VMware Horizon or Workspace ONE implementation. On the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit around Cisco. Cisco's quite broad in their offerings, I think. There's some really good technology here, some of which you're probably very familiar with. I think most people know WebEx, that's their collaboration product. What's really interesting is hopefully if you join us for next Friday's webinar, we'll be using WebEx to deliver it, because we are lucky enough to have Angela Whitty, head of Cisco, on our call, and so we're going to deliver it with their product using WebEx out of a bit of respect there. So yeah, you'll get to experience it. Moving on though, we've got Umbrella. Not such a well-known service from Cisco, but a really good one. That's a security product. It basically locks down your DNS and allows you to handle threats that are out in the wild quickly and efficiently. So essentially, if Cisco Umbrella sees a threat happening, they use their DNS cloud to lock it down. And that's a really powerful thing, because it means you don't have to have your eye on every single threat that's going on around the world, and it just automatically adapts to the ever-changing conditions. And right now, there are a lot of things going on the internet, obviously. So yeah, really worth looking at. And actually a really easy implementation as well, because it's DNS. Everyone knows DNS. It's an integral part of our networks. So yeah, definitely worth speaking to some of our specialists about that. Last offering from Cisco is a free trial of Duo, which is two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, I should say. Which again, I spoke about that last time, about how we've increased the capacity of our remote working solution so that it can handle 12,000 users across the Beckler group, all connected in remotely. And one of the ways that we did that was to stop using our VPN gateway for everything and offer out the desktops via Citrix. And that environment's locked down over the internet using two-factor authentication. So again, I think right now, if you've put together a solution which is reactive to the situation, but you want to add a little bit of extra security, that's definitely worth a consideration. Next, I'm actually going to hand over to Zoe, who's going to talk around Microsoft, because there's a lot going on there. There's some really good offers, but you got to choose wisely. I know we can help with that, but Zoe's going to take you through the details now.
Thank you, Justin, and good morning to everybody. So Microsoft are providing a couple of different flavors of Microsoft Teams free trials. They can be delivered through a number of ways. Now, you may be aware of this already. They've done very well in publishing reports and documentation online. There's various blogs that are out there that talk about the free offer of Microsoft Teams, which we're all obviously experiencing today, because that's how we're delivering this session. But as with some of the documentation that's out there, and maybe typically of Microsoft in some ways, it's slightly grey, a little bit misleading. So I want to just try and demystify that for you with this summary. So Microsoft Teams providing your users with your instant messaging, so your chat functionality, the ability to host and run and join Teams calls. So perfect as a solution for enabling remote working. What they're doing is delivering that through their Office 365 E1 product. So actually, although you'll get an access to Microsoft Teams, you actually get access to far more than that if you take the E1 trials. With that, as part of E1, you get access to online file storage, which is OneDrive capability for document sharing. You get access into file sharing and file storage through things like SharePoint. You also get access to Exchange Online. Now, some of these additional functions that are part of E1 may be of interest, they may not be. All I would say is working on the side of caution that if you don't have an Office 365 environment currently and you're not utilizing any of the tools that are there, some of those particular areas are quite bulky. So SharePoint, for example, being requiring some technical and bespoke creation. So whilst you've got access to it, it's great because you can get an opportunity to play, but not necessarily everything is going to be what you require for this immediate situation that a lot of you are finding yourselves in. So how you can get access to this? So there's really two routes. We've got three up on the screen, but there's two primary routes that we can help with. So there's a CSP trial, which we can facilitate for you. This is aimed for up to 1,000 users. The trial currently is available for up to 6 months. These are, for both options, available to businesses that have no Office 365 environment currently. And if that is you and you are interested in Teams, we can help you to onboard to that particular environment. It's also available to those of you who do have existing Office 365 environments, but there are restrictions. So if you have any of the subscriptions that contain Teams already, then unfortunately, you're not able to take part in the trial. What this does mean is that if you currently have any E1 licenses, you can't look to have a cost saving on those and take the trial in its place. Microsoft have quite strongly caveated that particular requirement. The benefit of doing it through the CSP route is that you can have our support. So CSP platform that Beckler run, we have access into technical support through our own team and to Microsoft. So if you have challenges with adopting Teams and deploying that out to your users, we can help you. We can help to build a strategy, or if you need to get it out fairly quickly, our technical team can help you to do so with reduced risk to your end users. If you are in the category above that with over 1,000 users, CSP unfortunately isn't going to be the fit for you, but there is a free E1 trial which we can provide for you, but it's just not through the CSP platform. So we can request a passcode from Microsoft. That passcode then enables you to access E1 licensing within your existing Office 365 tenant. If you don't have an existing Office 365 environment, we can still provide some support there, but because we're not directly linked to that environment, we have some limitations around our internal support. But ultimately, we can help in both avenues. It's just a slightly different flavour of where and how we can help you in that scenario. There are educational offers available, but as with education and Office 365 licensing, there's a lot that's free anyway, and the scenarios are different. So I've not included them here, but we can talk about those offline for any businesses that has an impact to. There is, and some of you might be aware of this, a third option, which is the Teams free trial or their freemium version. So for anyone who already has Office 365, you may notice in your Office 365 tenant that you have some free Teams licenses. They may have different names. They are typically initiated by an end user. So they do offer similar function, but there is a key difference, and that is around management and administration. So with an E1 trial, you get full admin access, so you can control what your users have access to, set policies, etc. With the end user freemium version, you don't have that. So they still get to do instant messaging, they still get to do calling, although there is no schedule call capability, but you don't have access to admin control, and you then don't have access to that partner support because obviously it's done directly through to Microsoft. Excuse me. So I think in summary, I've probably covered everything that I need to in terms of what to consider. I guess I would just like to say that, you know, adopting Teams isn't always a suitable knee-jerk reaction. It gives you access to some great functionality, but it does often open up conversations that can take you further down a deployment discussion with things like SharePoint, for example, or calling. So I would say before you make that decision, consider things like Cisco, consider Teams, put them side by side and work out what was your adoption strategy prior to the current situation that we're in, and where do you see it moving to in the next few months. And if Teams fits that bill, then perfect, we can obviously help on that journey. If it doesn't, as with anything, you run the risk of putting something in place that your users may love, but as a business you may not wish to adopt long term. But we can help with trying to work out what might be the best fit for you. So that's it with Microsoft. Moving on to the next slide, there is another software vendor out there that is providing some support, not free licenses, but with Adobe, they are granting where you are a VIP customer, so you procure your Creative Cloud subscriptions through a VIP model. They're extending your anniversary period, and this is really just to try and provide a little bit of flexibility around finance control with any upcoming renewals that you may have. So typically with VIP, you actually have a 60-day renewal term anyway, but you can renew 30 days prior to your anniversary, and you can renew 30 days after. They're now just extending that and putting an additional 30 days onto the back end. So this offer is running until May 31st. May extend after that point in time, but obviously what that does mean is, unfortunately, it does only impact positively those organisations that have got renewals running up until that period. If that is you and you have a renewal that's upcoming, and actually having a little bit of flexibility with cash flow is going to be of benefit to you, then reach out to your account manager. We can work with our team here to look at what that renewal process would look like for you and get the pricing across that's hopefully going to ease a little bit of strain. There are some educational offers as well. So Adobe are offering access to Creative Cloud for student and faculty at home. Really important. I have a son at home who's using Adobe Creative Cloud. It's required to help him do a lot of his home learning. So I think this is a really good offer for education facilities. Again, that offer is only available until the 31st of May, and it's where you've purchased, say, K-12 licensing through a VIP contract, or if you have an ETLA, which is an Adobe education-wide enterprise agreement. If that is you, then again, get in touch, have a chat with us, and we can work out where you may be able to take advantage of that particular offer. And as with either of the Microsoft and the Adobe products, you know, myself and our team here are here to help, to try and help you decide on which route you go down if it's within those particular areas. Justin, back across to you.
Fantastic, thanks, Zoe. So here we've got quite a lot of things, so apologies, it's quite a big slide, and I'm going to rush through it a little bit. I think, as with all things, we can give you copies of these slides. You can take a look at some of the products, but I'm going to quickly go through what we've actually got. So in the VDI space, VDI has been incredibly obviously useful for us all. If you don't have a VDI solution, then we've got Hive Fabric, which is got a 90-day license. Again, that will give you the capability to deploy your desktops, but does take some installation, and you'll need some resource to install it as well. So again, think about that with caution, but if you do need something quick, that might not be a bad option. The bandwidth challenge we all face right now, you know, we've got 12,000 users on the outside of Beckler connecting to the data centers on the inside across Europe. Bandwidth, yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for us all. So the Riverbed Client Accelerator, some of you may know it as Steelhead, 90-day trial license. It's not too bad to install, and that can do some compression and really help optimize your data center connection. Nutanix are offering frames. So desktop as a service, essentially. Yes, it's virtual desktops delivered from the cloud, unlimited users, 30 days. I think that's cracking, but a desktop's only as good as the apps and the connectivity it's got. So do consider that as well. This is one I spoke about on the last call, the Kemp load balancer. We actually did this really quick because we realized we needed more resilience in our Citrix estate. So we actually adopted the Kemp free load balancer. It literally is free. Now its limit, as you can see on the screen, is 20 megabits, but for a load balancing action, that's simply just to connect inbound connections to a server. 20 megabits is actually quite a lot. So it's free. It's really easy to install. They have templates for services such as Citrix and Horizon and things like that. So you can actually get it up and running really quickly. And what's really interesting is that you can actually upgrade the license on it. So if you start with the limited free version, you can just apply a license and upgrade it to the full product and get full support. So yeah, really good product. If people want to talk to me about that installation experience, really happy to at a later date. LeoStream. LeoStream is a really interesting take on VDI. It's actually a multi-cloud hybrid VDI broker. So if you have data in different places, maybe you've had to hang some things together quite quickly in this reactive phase that we're in right now, trying to get everything to work, then LeoStream VDI broker can hang together all those different environments and serve it out safely and securely as VDI tends to. So some really good things going on in the VDI space. Lots of different offerings. I know that's a lot, but there is some really good technologies there. It's just about whether it's right for you. And I'll talk about that shortly. Security, yeah, it's on all our minds at the moment. And the risk is that we've done this mass deployment. We've got desktops and laptops out there as quickly as possible. That might leave some risk in that estate. So a couple of offers there from Sophos and Trend that can allow you to lock down not just business resources, but maybe secure home resources as well. You know, the laptops and things are connecting into people's home Wi-Fi. That's a risk. So yeah, you can flex up and apply some extra cybersecurity products onto your laptops, and hopefully that should minimize some of the exposure that you're seeing right now. Obviously, most people can recognize some of these. Zoom's kind of one of the market leaders in the video conferencing space. But if you don't already have a video conferencing solution, or maybe you're looking at changing that, I know that some of the solutions that are out there right now have been crashing. So, you know, maybe this is a good time to even start evaluating a new one. So I think this is more than just a get out of jail card to have these limited offers on these things, but actually could be good in helping you choose your next strategy for UC. So yeah, Zoom's really good. Ring Central, Life Size, they all have pros and cons. You can talk to Tori, our modern workplace specialist. She can tell you lots about all of those things and maybe guide you. But of course, I think with these things, they're really, because they're cloud-based services predominantly, you can get on there and experience them for yourselves really easily. This next one is a really lovely offer from DSP. Free assistance for P1 and P2 issues on their databases. So Oracle and SQL, we all have databases at the heart of our network. Now is not the time to be having problems with those things. So I think it's really amazing those guys have stepped up and offering that service out to our customers. That's to Beckler customers. So hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, none of you guys get any problems. But should you, by all means, get in touch with your account manager, and they can hook you up with DSP and hopefully solve your problems for you. Lastly, two things. One I've spoken about already, virtual apps and desktops from Citrix. There's a 52% discount to end users right now. It's certainly driving our world right now, and I think a lot of people have this need right now to deploy virtual desktops and apps. So Citrix is a really good product. I know that a lot of people might have some impressions of it created from previous versions of Citrix, but if you look at the current version of Citrix, it is almost install, click next, 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 and it works, which I found absolutely amazing, because I took a Citrix course back in a little while ago, and the latest version is streets ahead of where it was. So actually really impressed with Citrix, and actually it's a good long-term solution. So worth a look, but definitely that's one for a conversation between myself and some of our specialists. Pulse Secure are offering Pulse Ice. Pulse Ice is basically to help you burst out your network. That's a challenge for some people right now. So if your data center is struggling on capacity, inbound, outbound, then by all means have a conversation with us. 60% discount on that. It's a good offer. And I think now is when it gets interesting. I realize there's a lot of product that we just talked about there. Some of it interesting, some of it not to some of you. But what I would say is that these things, some of them are free, some of them are reduced cost, some of them are trial periods, but all of them represent work to an IT person. These are not something we should just go crazy on and install, because, like I said, it takes time, it takes skill. You might even need some installation support, and right now, jumping on a new experience and installing something might not be the most sensible thing to do. So what I suggest is think it through in terms of strategy. Do these products and services align with your strategy? Do they actually make things easier? Maybe they make things worse by complicating things. So yeah, I think it's one where you should take a step back. They sound like really good offers, but yeah, you really do have to think about it. We can take you through some of these products. We can give you some demonstrations and some videos on them and help you take the time to understand, because installing them and then integrating them takes time. And if you make the wrong decision, of course, that's wasted time, possibly wasted money. So yeah, we're going to take the time and help you through those things if you need them. And right now, we can even help you with the installations. In some cases, they're virtual installations, obviously. But if you're capable of getting to your data center and getting one of our engineers to remote in, then we can still make an installation happen. So don't think because we're all on lockdown that the world has stopped. It really hasn't. And that's it. I rushed it through a little bit there, so apologies. I think we've overran as well, haven't we, Ajay? But apologies there. But I'll hand back to Ajay.
Yes, thank you, Justin. And like Justin said, there's a lot on there, and I appreciate none. Some might not be relevant, but let us know which ones are, and we can absolutely look into them. We are slightly behind, but we still want to answer any questions or start a bit of a discussion on any of these. So has anyone got any questions on any of that